So if you remember in the earlier class, we had discussed about the political factors, still the political factors basically. Okay, then I had told you about how a stable government or how a stable political environment will help a particular company to grow or will help it to have a better footing. Okay, that's why I gave an example of LPG. Okay, if you remember, liberalization, then globalization, and mm, and LPG and politics. I am not remembering the third one. Okay, just leave it there. But that is very important. Like pre 1990s and post 1990s, how India basically changed itself. Okay, I gave an example of how a foreign country company it wants to come and have its company or have its sales of the product in India. It had to basically have an arrangement with one of the Indian companies. This was a rule earlier before 1990. Okay, now it's not the case, so they can independently come in India. Okay, then start their business. But only thing is they need to take permission from the government. That's all. But earlier, with the permission, they need to state or they need to have a collaboration with one of the companies, like the Maruti Suzuki. If you see Hero Motocorp, now it is Hero Motocorp. Earlier it is Hero Honda. Okay, so something like this you could have seen earlier. So there were two names, okay, one from India and one from the foreign country. Okay, so these kind of situations were there. So as and when different government came and they thought of okay having like loosening the uh, rules basically for foreign companies to come and start their business in India. So it was feared that if foreign companies come to India, they would like have a upper hand because the technology was bit better than India. Okay, so in those particular days it was like that. So they used to fear. Okay, that if again a situation like the East India Company which came in then took over, then we were a colony of British. So it was we were in that kind of mentality then. But later on, when the rules and all other things for global trade and the products that you can sell, so the exposure that people get, okay, basically throughout the world. Why people or the companies wanted to come to India? Because the population is big and they can sell their products in a larger quantity. Right, when the population is big, the sales would be better or the demand would be more. Okay, so that's why people try to come to places where there are more number of people, okay, who can buy their products, or they'll check first. Okay, just like that you cannot go to any country, okay, without uh, particular study, because in some cases what the products you are selling could be like against the what do you call it? The religious practices, okay, or it could be against the way those people are staying over there, or they don't want your products over there. So so many such things are there. You already know about many of the things like that. Okay, like alcohol, if you see in Arab countries, so it is not allowed for any of the people to drink also. But if you are a alcohol manufacturing company, you cannot go to Saudi Arab or Middle East, okay, basically to sell your product, right? So there, if you go also, you will not be given permission, or if you do something and get the permission also, there will be no people to buy your products. Okay, so people tend to go to a place where they are having more number of customers or potential customers. So who are potential customers? The people who are like who will be my customers in the coming future, potential customers. Okay, so that's why political factors are very very much important. Then coming to the next one, that is infrastructure factors. So what is infrastructure? You already know. So in general terms, any infrastructure of a particular country or a particular region, if you say, so it's the schools, colleges, the highways, the bridges, okay, then the transportation facilities over there, like the trains, okay, or the buses, or uh, cargo transportation, it could be, or like if it is a area where we are having seas or oceans, so even there we can have transportation using ships. Plus, do you have air connectivity? So this is some of the examples of infrastructure. So similarly, when a particular company or in a supply chain, if you want to have your facility, so you want to check out the infrastructure as well. If you think that okay, if the land is cheap, okay, at that particular place, but there are no transportation facilities, because as a company there are some products which will be coming into the company, okay, getting ready, and some things will go out of the company as and when you are producing it. The things that come into the company would be raw materials, right? Or if it is the workers, okay, or the employees who are working, if they are staying far away, so they need to come to the company, right? There should be some transportation facility. The road should be good, okay. There should be some government transportation if the people are not having their own vehicles, okay. There should be buses, trains, okay, trams, something like that. So that is very important. So if you are having your factory, if you decide to have a factory somewhere where the land is cheap but there are no facilities, you should provide those facilities as you are present over there. So it is a cost that is taken on by yourself, okay. That's why infrastructure factors are very very much important. The availability of good infrastructure is an important prerequisite to locating a facility in a given area. Okay, as I explained, transportation is the biggest one. Plus, do you have the workforce that is required by you? Okay, that much of population, that much of skilled people, unskilled people, semi-skilled people. Okay, so all these kinds of people are required in a particular factory. The people who are looking at the technical things, so their skilled people are required. So, okay, they need to have the knowledge, but they are not using much of that technical knowledge, semi-skilled laborers. Okay, there are non-skilled laborers also. They don't know what the product is. Like people who are transporting from one place to another place. People who are basically stacking your products. Okay, people only like in a machine they keep a particular part. Okay, and everything the machine does, they are keeping it back again. So these kind of works may not be required skilled labors or semi-skilled labors. Their non-skilled labors are sufficient. So something like this, how much of each amount of people are available at that particular place, you need to check that as well. Okay, then poor infrastructure adds to the cost of doing business from a given location, okay, because of the transportation, the lack of people, or in a case where there are no people only, so there will be no drinking water facilities, there will not be electricity, okay. So you need to take permission for the government and you should ask the government to help, okay. If they say okay, it is partly, you need to pay the amount that is required by the government to get you all these facilities like water or electricity. So again there is an extra cost that is involved, okay. Then global companies have located the factories in China, okay, near Shanghai, Tianjin or Guangzhou, even though these locations do not have the lowest labor and land costs, because there is good infrastructure at these locations. So always, as a person who is doing a business, you are always in a trade-off. Trade-off in the sense, for one thing, if you pay less, for the other thing, you may pay more. You need to come in a place where you are not spending more in both the places. So something like this, if you see here, the example of Shanghai, so here the cost of the labor is not that cheap when compared to the other parts of the country. But if you see the facilities what that particular place is having, so that lowers the cost to a significant level. Okay, so you need to make sure first check, okay, whether I can bear the transportation cost if the labor cost is less. So if it is manageable, okay, or if it is matching, like if I pay more some places, in some other areas I'm paying less, and if that is coming to equal, okay, like where you are saving, you are paying more, and that amount is almost equal, okay, so there will be no problem basically, okay. So you may not have most of the profits, but you will be not losing or you will not be in loss because of paying more. Okay, so similarly, by taking all these things into consideration, So as a person, you will be, or as a company, you will be taking decisions to where to have your facility. Okay, then three key infrastructure elements to be considered during network design include availability of sites, labor availability, proximity of transportation terminals, rail service, proximity to airports and seaports, highway access, congestion, and local utilities. So many things are there. I was talking to you about so many things. Like here, they have given key infrastructure elements for a particular company to be there, like availability of sites. There should be huge area. Okay, as a factory or a company, they will be requiring acres of land, not 1 acre. It could be multiple acres. Sometimes it may go up to three digits of acres, like more than 100 basically. Okay, so there should be availability of sites or open place. Then labor availability. So is there availability of people, or you need to transport them from different place where they live, or is there any township or any small village where you are trying to situate? Okay, so those things also help. So those, if you ask people to have their own transport, if it is very near, not an issue. But if it is far, as a factory or as a company, you need to have those facilities as well. So you can see in most of the even metropolitan cities or normal cities also, the at the morning hours and the evening hours, you might have seen buses, okay, of different companies stating that okay, this particular bus belongs to this company, where they are transporting their employees from company to their houses or their houses to the company. Okay, both happens at both the times. Okay, because you already know the work in a particular factory or in a company may have in different shifts. Okay, so if one person is coming out of the company, the other person goes in. So depends on the kind of product, depends on the service it is providing, depends on the uh, size of the total population it is catering, because many of the companies will be just working for one shift. It could be general shift or morning shift. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, so in a 24 hours we will be having three shifts. Okay, plus a general shift. So there are people or employees who come only on general shift. Okay, like the HRs, the accounts people. So these people, they usually come in the general hours, that is from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, something like this. This is called as general shift. Then first shift usually will be from morning 6 o'clock to afternoon 2 o'clock. This is the first shift. Then from 2 to night 10. Okay, from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to night 10. This is second shift. Okay, then the third shift is from 10 to morning 6. That is the night, overall night, from evening 6 o'clock to next day morning. Sorry, 10 o'clock in the night to next day morning 6 o'clock. So this is the third shift. So in a manufacturing company, usually this is the shift that is being employed. Okay, these three shifts plus there will be a general shift. There will be a general shift, whatever shifts are there. Plus there, if any shifts, different shifts are there, then it will be first and second. Third might be compromised. In the sense, it might be, if it is not required, the shift that goes off is the third shift, that is night shift, because there should be extra amount that has to be paid by the company as night shift allowance, because the shift is at night. So as you are basically troubling people, so you need to pay more. Why troubling, I'll call you, because you are not allowed to sleep, right? You are working. So and it basically affects on your life cycle also. Like we are usually awake at in the morning, then we sleep at night. But if you change that particular cycle, you will feel a lot of difference. So you might be in touch with your friends, colleagues, your brothers, sisters, or any of your relatives. So many of them who might be working in different shifts. Okay, so those who work for night shift, in the initial stages, it will be very difficult for them. Okay, to adjust. Okay, and there is one more thing here. So in terms of shifts, so there will be something called as rotating shifts. So for some days they'll ask you to come for first shift, then second shift, then third shift. So in this case, you'll take a very long time to get adjusted to all of this, because as when your body is trying to adjust to one of the shifts, they'll change it. Okay, because it is like that. It is like weekly shifts will be there or monthly shifts will be there in most of the companies. So they may try to have as much as possible. Okay, bigger one or smaller one depending upon the product and the type of the company they are into. Okay, so like these things happen, especially in production and all. Uh, the shifts will change. So you cannot give one set of people only first shift. You cannot give a set of people only second shift or the third shift. Okay, the first and the second they can manage somehow, but the third shift is there. No, that is the overnight shift. It is very difficult for the people to have. So it will be on a rotating basis. Okay, there is a planner. Okay, a person will be scheduling. Okay, so in what particular shift, what number of people are there? Usually it remains the same because the number of machines and the type of work that they are doing will be the same. Okay, but only thing is the amount of production that happens has a variation because of night there will be a certain number of products, like the target would be less when compared to the morning shift, that is first and the second shift. Okay, so this is how this particular thing works. But I can tell you like there are other shifts also where depending upon the companies that you cater, okay, like software companies or the stock market based companies, where in India we are catering to many of the countries. So, like for example, financial companies are there. Some of the financial companies are there who are taking care, or their clients are in different countries of the world, and they could be related to stock market also. Like for example, like you in Tokyo, if you see, the timings are completely different. Okay, in US it is completely different. US it is exactly opposite. Okay, so the whole night goes off. But in Tokyo, sorry, Japan, okay, Japan, then in the Middle Eastern countries or in UK and all, if you see, they are just 5 hours behind us. So if you see, so it will be somewhere in between, like the midnight that your shift gets over or it starts. Okay, so it may so happen that one of my friend who was working in one of such companies, he used to start his work at night 1 o'clock. Okay, and finish at around 12, 10:30 to 11 o'clock in the morning. Okay, because the people whom he was catering to or the country to which he was catering to was working at that particular time, in the sense that was pay for them, but for us it was somewhere in midnight. So just imagine who will start the work at midnight 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. But there are jobs and there are people who are doing those. So we need to make sure if the infrastructure is not proper, if the transportation facility is not proper, you cannot have such people like such companies over there. Even if you give any amount of money to them, they'll people are not ready to work because people fear at night. Okay, if you are not providing because it is far off place, so anybody can come in between and harm them, right? So it is very difficult to convince people to work in these odd shifts. Okay, so that's why the infrastructure factors play a very vital role in a particular facility's location. Okay, then competitive factors. So, what are competitive factors? Companies must consider competitor strategy. So, as a particular company who is producing something, okay. So, in the earlier days, okay, you could say that I am having the monopoly, I am the only one, I am the first mover, and all. So, still now it is there for new products, okay, that are not there in the market. But over a period of time, many people start doing the same things that you're doing, or come up with the same products, okay, that your company manufactures. So it is very difficult for you to sustain because we call something as market share. So what is market share? So out of the total market, total again, when I'm talking about market share, the total market in the sense, the total number of people buy a similar kind of product. Okay, like for example, how many people are buying milk? Okay, so I may not give the example of milk because most of us in most of the households we buy milk. So almost 99.9% of the households buy milk. Okay, I can go to some other example like okay, you can take example of meat. Okay, what you call as non-veg, non-vegetarians. So why I'm taking that is there is a fairly large amount of people in both the sides who are vegetarian, who won't eat meat, and there are fairly big number of people who eat non-vegetarian. So if I am a company, okay, that is producing okay non-vegetarian things, so if out of the total number of people who eat non-veg, so that is my market. So I am not catering or I'm not bothered about the other section, that is the vegetarian, as those people are nowhere concerned with me, in the sense those people are nowhere involved in my profits because I'm not selling anything to them. Okay, so my whole market is the people who eat non-veg. Okay, basically the meat based on what product you are giving, the meat product. Okay, this is my total market, and out of the total market, 100%, how much percent am I giving? In the sense, how much percent of the people are buying my product? Whether it is 20%, 30%, 80%, 90%. Okay, so depending upon this, we call this as market share. So, what is the market share of a company in the sense? How many people who actually use similar product or use this product buy my product, in the sense the products that are being manufactured and sold by me are being bought by the people. So this is what is market share. Okay, so what is my market share? So if any competitors are there, how big are they? Is it a monopoly? So what is monopoly? Monopoly is only one person controlling the entire market. Okay, if a person is having more than 80% or 90% of the market share with him, it could be called as monopoly only, because if he increases the prices, you need to buy the products. Okay, so example, if I tell you it is the Indian Railways, if you see, so there is no other competitor. There is only one Indian Railway and only one railway station in each place. Okay, so but for buses, if you see, there is government buses, there are so many private buses. So that is not a monopoly. Okay, so there are different things. So if you study economics, you'll get to know monopoly, oligopoly, okay, monopolistic market. So there are many such things. But monopoly, if you think of, that means major number of people in the total market buy my product. So that is the monopoly. So is there any monopoly in this particular? Is there any competitor who is having monopoly? Okay, we need to find that. Okay, so and what strategy is using? Usually, a product that is or a company that is having a monopoly, so they will not bother about the competitors. Okay, or I can give you one more example of monopoly is the company Pedialyte. You might have heard of Pedialyte. So what this particular company does? This company produces adhesives. Okay, different kinds of adhesives. So in the present market, around more than 85% of Indian market, they are the leaders. Okay, or 85% of the total market where they are selling buys their product. So I'll name the product. So many of you might be knowing it, and others may not be knowing it. The product is Fevicol. Okay, Pedialyte is the company which is producing Fevicol. So most of the things which where Fevicol is used, they buy Fevicol itself. So Fevicol is the name of the product and not the product itself. So it is an adhesive. So different kind of adhesives are there, like waterproof adhesives are there. Again from the Pedialyte company only. Okay. So if you see Pedialyte, so they are producing Fevicol. So if somebody comes up with that white liquid which is adhesive, so even you call it as Fevicol only, even if the name is different. Okay, so again, there was one more company who was giving a tough competition. So that was Araldite. Okay, Araldite. Many of you might be knowing Araldite. So where we are getting two liquids, we need to mix it and apply, and it becomes a very strong adhesive. Okay, so even Pedialyte bought Araldite also. So now the market leaders in India are Pedialyte in terms of adhesives. Okay, in what I'm telling you is like the place where adhesives are used. There are different kinds of adhesives. Okay, there is one more company who are having mastery, but they are not dealing with adhesives like Fevicol. So Fevicol in constructions it is being used, in making furnitures it is used. Okay, in most of the places Fevicol is used. but there is one more company called as 3M. So even they are into adhesives, but they are into completely different kind of adhesives. Okay, so like sticky notes, if you have seen sticky notes, so this is one of the product of 3M, okay, which is very popular. So if you go to any of the software companies, so in each and every desk, on each and every desk, you will find a sticky note. So many people use it. They write what to be done, things to be done, or things to be completed for today. They'll take it and they'll stick it somewhere, like on a board or on top of the computers also, on top of laptops also. There will be sticky notes which will be there, which states like what needs to be done, what is the like if they want to remember something, yes, they'll be writing it and sticking it on the laptops or computers so that they could be seeing it and constant reminder would happen. So these are some of the companies. Again in paint, if you see, again in India, Asian Paints. Okay, these are the market leaders again in paints division. Okay, so if you want to enter in these particular places, if you want to start your own product, so we need to check who are the competitors. Is there a monopoly there? Okay, how many people will tend to buy your product? Okay, so I would like to tell you, like if you are coming up with a particular product, so people will hesitate to buy because these all the companies which I told you, monopoly companies, they are there from very long time, like 20 years, 50 years, 80 years, 100 years. Okay, so there is a sense of trust that is being there in the general public. So if they want to buy paints, when you go to shop, most of the time you end up buying Asian paints only. So Fevicol, there is no other alternative to Fevicol. You will buy Fevicol. Okay, adhesive means Fevicol. Okay, similarly, some years back, okay, so in terms of noodles, it was Maggie noodles. So people used to ask, okay, if they wanted noodles, they used to ask for Maggie. Okay, the Maggie had become a synonym for noodles. Okay, so now, like after the controversy of the lead, okay, present in Maggie noodles, which is at the higher level than the like maximum amount. So you already know that. So after that big issue, so they changed all the things and they brought it down, and they are again into the market. But they lost a lot of market share. So many small companies who were there, who were in the same space, they got more exposure because Maggie was not there in the shelf to buy. But there are many people who only like Maggie. They don't eat any other noodles. Okay, like Epi or anything. So many of them might be among you also. Okay, so people who like Maggie may not like Epi. Okay, or may not like some other noodles. Okay, YY noodles also are there. So many noodles who came into the market and they got market share of Maggie. Okay, so is there anything like that competitive factors? Okay, so this is kind of products I'm talking. So in terms of retailers, so as supply chain is not only dealing with the manufacturers, it is dealing with everyone. Okay, manufacturer is one of the part of supply chain. Okay, so companies must consider competitor strategy, size, and location when designing the supply chain networks. So, how they are, what is their strategy? So, what kind of supply chain you are having? So, for supply chain, I can give you the best example is Coca-Cola. Okay, Coca-Cola is present everywhere in such small areas also, or such small villages also in India. So you can imagine where there is no post office or where there is no electricity. There also you can find Coca-Cola. So their supply chain is that developed and that advanced where we are not having electricity or post offices or banks. They are having their products kept in the places where particular things are sold. Okay, in some retailers over there. So that is how good the supply chain of Coca-Cola is in India. Okay, so to bring that particular supply chain, you need to do so much of work. You need to have so much of collaborations. You need to study so much. Okay, so we need to locate or we need to focus on the strategy, size, and the location of your competitors, and you need to design your own supply chain network. Okay. So again, there are some companies who are like only dealing with the supply chain. Okay, like in a sense, taking products from one place and delivering it. Okay, so there are only companies who do this. So you can have collaborations. If you don't want to have your own supply chain, you can have collaborations. Like, okay, there's a company who does this. I can have collaboration, and that particular company can take my products and distribute it wherever I want. Okay, then the fundamental decision firms make is to whether locate the facilities close to the competitors or far from them. So two things are possible. You already know. That is, you can be very near to your competitor, or you can be far from your competitor. The form of competition and the factors such as raw materials or labor availability influence this particular decision. Okay, I told, okay, if you want to have a factory, you need to check out for labor. Okay, availability of labor. If similar company, two three company comes in the same vicinity, okay, so will you be able to manage? Okay, so this is what happens when your competitor comes nearby. Okay, the people who are working for you, they want to grab them. Okay, because they are already in the field, they know, they were working for the same product, they know what to be done. Okay, so what people do or what competitors do is they come, they pay more salaries and they take the employees of their competitors. Okay, similarly, if you see in the present scenario, the IT companies are doing the same. Like recently, I heard this particular news. People are trying two things. One is to retain the employees, and the other thing is to gain the employees, like potential employees of other competitors. So to retain, what they are doing, they are giving good salaries. Okay, good hikes they are giving to the potential employees. Huh? So there are even instances where they are throwing out the employees also. Okay, where it is not there, or they have lost a particular order. Okay, or lost a particular company. Okay, who used to give them particular work, and they have stopped. So both the cases are there. Okay, if you are a potential candidate, okay, if you are a potential person who is working in a particular company, if a competitor sees it or they notice, so they approach you. Okay, or if they did not approach you, they'll be looking for the opportunity. If you approach them, okay, they are ready to pay you enormously. Okay, so it would be like 50%, 80% hike, up to 100% hikes are also there. Okay, so where they are trying to gain the experts of other competitors. So there are advantages and disadvantages of being very near. Okay, so even the employees may say, okay, that company is paying more, I'll go there only. So it will be competition again in paying the salaries as well. Okay, so these all things will not happen in monopoly. So whatever the company says should be done. If they stop the product, okay, for some time, there will be no product in the market because there are no competitors only in monopoly, right? So if they increase the price, you cannot say anything. You can just ask them why you have done it. So they'll say, if you want, you can take it. Okay, something like if it is not a government controlled one, so like trains and all, if you see, so it is controlled by government and the fare is less. I can say less because when you compare it with the buses, okay, who are traveling at a similar distance, you need to pay more for tickets in buses compared to trains. So that's why people try to go get seat in a particular train than buses. Why? Because many facilities are there. You can roam around in a train, but you cannot in a bus. So you are having toilet facilities in a train, but here you don't have. But how come you, if you think, how come the people who are like people who are like running these trains, the government basically getting the profits from? Okay, how they are getting profits? They are when traveling the same distance. Okay, they are taking the same people. Okay, so if you go to bus, you are moving to the same place from one place to another place. They are also in trains. If you go from one place to another place, you are only traveling, right? There is no difference. But how they are achieving is economies of scale. In bus there are limited number of seats. Okay, but in trains they can vary. Okay, if you could have seen like a train with 8 bogies or 10 bogies. So there are trains up to 20, 25, 30 bogies also. Okay, so at a moment of time, if the demand is more, they can increase the number of bogies in a particular train. So this is how they can basically maintain the profits as well as give you the benefit of traveling at a lesser cost. Okay, this is how it works. That is what I was telling you about economies of scale. If you do something in a very big manner, okay, the cost of producing that particular product will go down significantly, because as you are buying in bulk, you are getting too much of discounts. Okay, that's how this particular supermarkets and hypermarkets work. So they buy in bulk, okay, from the manufacturers directly. So whether whatever it could be, okay, it could be farmers or it could be manufacturer of certain products that they sell. So they directly approach the manufacturers or they directly approach the farmers and they buy in bulk. They say whatever you grow, I will buy. Okay, so or a particular person selling something, they'll go to him and they'll say whatever you produce, I'll buy. So just tell me what is the price that you're going to give. If the retail price MRP is 100, that person could get it at around 35, 40 rupees. The 60% come margin is there, right? So if he says like if you go out and buy MRP is already 100, you know it. But if he use it at 80 also, so what is wrong? He's having 100% of the profits, right? He's buying it at 40 rupees, he's selling at 80 rupees. And for a person who is buying it, or a person or the customer who is buying it, he sees okay, he's also in profits, right? If I go out, I'll be getting the same product at 100 rupees. If you are giving it 80 rupees, there is a profit of 20 rupees to me. But for the person who is running that supermarket or hypermarket, he is getting 100% of the profits. He is giving some percent of it to you. So you feel I am in gains of 20%. So what is wrong in that? Right? So that's how this particular companies work. So we need to find out these as well. Then competitors factors include positive externalities between firms, then locating to split the market. So these two things are very important. I'll just explain how it is. Like positive externalities between firms. Positive externalities are instances where the collation of multiple firms benefits all of them. Okay, I'll read the whole thing, then I'll explain. Positive externalities lead to competitors locating close to each other. So there are some examples given to you. For example, gas stations. Okay, gas stations, if you see, they are very near to each other on both the sides of the roads. There will be multiple gas stations on one single side also. Okay, so why this happens, I'll tell you. And retail stores. If you see, there is grocery store next to each other, okay, or opposite to each other. Okay, you might have seen this. Okay, the best example would be medical shops. Okay, if there are reputed medical shops, there are two, three which will come there in just eyes distance. It could be opposite to each other. There could be like two to three shops. If you leave, there would be one more medical shop that could be there. You might have seen such things. So similarly, if you see in market, if you go, you can see like people who are selling clothes, okay, pants, shirts, and other things. So they are next to each other, okay. Even the footwears and all, even you might have seen just next to each other, or on top and bottom, or opposite to each other. Similar kind of people are there, or people, similar kind of stores you will find. Okay, so for example, you can see here gas stations and retail stores tend to locate close to each other because doing so increases the overall demand, thus benefiting all parties. So I give you other examples also where we are having similar kind of stores very near to each other. It could be just next to them, it could be opposite to them, it could be some two, three shops after or before. It's similar. Why they do it? So what is the use of this? Okay, I'll tell you. If you think of a particular, like for example, take gas station only. So most of the times it is very near, and those will be opposite. They are in diagonally situated. Why? Because if you see while going, I usually tend to, like in India, it is left side. You are moving on left side, right? So whatever bunk that is there on the left side, I usually tend to go there, okay, while going. So if you don't fill your petrol while going, if you want to fill it while coming, you'll go to the bunk which is the right side. Usually, if it is there like that, right and left, you usually go to the one where a petrol bunk which is next to you. You don't want to cross a road because there are vehicles which are coming from the opposite direction. So it is usually people tend to go and fill their petrol basically on the side which they have that petrol bunk, or in the side which they are moving. Okay, that's why you can, even if they are just opposite to each other, there will not be any conflict. The people who are going from this side, they'll go towards the left. The people who are coming from the other side, they go to the left. So both are not having any conflict. These people are having their customers, these people are having their customers. And there are some people who go to both the bunks, like depending upon which side they are moving. Okay, many a times you might have also done the same thing. While going, you might have used a certain kind of petrol bunk always, but at times you have changed it to the other side also, right? So doing this will help, okay, the customers as well as you are getting the customers also. Okay, so again, one more thing is like if there are many, and I'm just talking about two or three. So it may so happen that there are many firms or many retailers who are there of similar kind who are selling similar things. Okay, like if I ask you, so the people who are from Belgaum, if I ask you any auto part if I require, okay, any auto part of a two wheeler or a four wheeler or whatever. So what is the answer? If you ask any person from Belgaum, what he will say? If you tell them, I want a particular part of a two wheeler or a four wheeler, usually the answer would be go to Fort Road. Okay, go to Fort Road. Why they ask you to go to Fort Road? Because there are huge number of retailers who are selling these parts. If you just go and ask there where I can get this, if he is having, he will provide it to you. Otherwise, he will guide you to the shop where that is available. Okay, so it becomes kind of an expertise over time if there are many similar kind of products. Okay, so like it is related to two wheeler or four wheeler. I told you, like even if you go there, you could find tires also. So not the just the parts. So even tire shops are there which are located next to each other or opposite to each other, and they are selling, like the retailers are selling the same kind of products. Okay, so where it is used for two wheelers only or four wheelers only, or basically automobiles, I can say, for even trucks, then all other basically transportation related things. So all the parts could be found in Port Road. Why is this? Because they have made that particular area in that particular way. In a sense, whatever is related to two wheeler or four wheeler or any kind of transportation uh, device, you will be finding their spare parts over there or spares over there. If you don't find anywhere, so the last thing where you search is the photo. If you are looking at any store which is nearby to you, if it is not available, even he goes. If you ask him to get it, even he will go to. If the store person will go to Fort Road, he'll get it from there. Okay. If he says no, then you can go directly to Fort Road and get it. Okay, most of the things are available in, and if it is not available in Fort Road also, there would be one person, one retailer who would say, okay, I can get it for you. It is a slow moving product. We usually not keep it, but if you want it, I'll get it and I will give it to you. But give some time. Okay, he will ask you to call him like after 2 days or 3 days, depending upon how far the product has to come from. Okay, so you might have seen this. So this is where positive externalities. So getting multiple retailers, okay, getting multiple retailers at one place will have positive impact on all the people. Okay, so we are not saying okay buy at this particular store only. We are saying go to Fort Road. Okay, if you go there, you can buy it from any stores. So as more people are coming, people are not worried about getting their share of market, okay, or their share of customers to them. So many times it so happens that you are visiting first time or you are buying that product for the first time. You don't know which company or which retailer to go, but you go there, you ask, somebody says yes, I am having. If you are okay with the price, well and good, you will buy it. Otherwise, you will go to the next shop. So it is beneficial for the customers as well, where he is getting more number of options in one place. So people tend to go to directly the people who usually know where that is particular thing is available, they tend to go there directly. Okay, like two-wheeler and four-wheeler, I told. I don't know what kind of spring it is. If some spring is there and I'm not getting anywhere near my place, so people will tell you, okay, where it is being used. Okay, at this particular place in this particular two-wheeler or four-wheeler. So they'll say go directly to Ford Road. You'll get it. Okay, so they don't know which shop is selling it, but they know it could be available in that particular area, and they will send you there. Okay, so this is the uh, positive externality of having your competitor or a person who is selling the same kind of product or the person who is producing the same kind of product in one place. So similarly, if I take IT industry, okay, more if you see people go to Bangalore. Okay, so there are other places the companies are there, but for many of these startups and most of the software companies, they go to Bangalore. From all over India, I'm talking about. So there are people who go like from Belgaum, if you take, there are many people who go to Bangalore. There are many people who go to Pune and even Mumbai. Okay, so but majorly from north to south, from east to west, people tend to go to Bangalore because it is formed over time as a hub of IT. Okay, so in India, how Silicon Valley is there in US, the Bangalore is called as Silicon Valley of India. Why? Because of more of startups are there, more of big companies, tech companies are available over there. The people who are like looking for jobs, they usually tend to go to Bangalore. So if you go to Bangalore, you can find all kinds of people, all kinds of languages being used. So you will not find any difficulty if you go to Bangalore. So they speak all kind of languages. So as it is very near to Andhra, they speak Telugu. It is very near to Tamil Nadu, they speak Tamil. Again, people are there from Kerala as well. So they speak even Malayalam. If you go to North Hindi, they'll be speaking, most of the people will be speaking Hindi or any other languages, regional languages. But if you take the North India, it is one language. If you see, if you know Hindi, you can manage anywhere and anyhow. But to be in Bangalore, it is very easy if you know Hindi or the regional language Kannada. That is the language of the state. Okay, so this is how positive things start happening if all the people or many competitors are situated at one place. This is one positive externalities. Then coming to the second one, locating to split the market. Okay, split the market how? Okay, so you are also selling same kind of product, and there is one more person or one more retailer who is selling the same kind of product. So in terms of retailer, I am telling you, so it can be again taken to manufacturer as well. Okay, like I told you, hub IT hub Bangalore. There could be many places where there is only one person who is doing the manufacturing or selling. So if that thing happens, is the monopoly is having the monopoly in that particular area because he is the only one who is doing it. But if there are multiple people, as I told you, they could be situated very near to each other, or they could go far away from each other. So here, when we go far away from each other, this is called as split the market. Okay, I'll just read it for you, then I'll explain. When there are no positive externalities, firms locate to be able to capture the largest possible share of the market. How? By having the distance between my competitor and me. Okay, then when firms do not control price but compete on distance from the customer, they can maximize market share by locating close to each other and splitting the market. So locating close to each other in the sense not next to each other, it could be a bit far. Okay, then the earlier one, in the sense positive externalities. So there could be no positive externalities, but here in this case you can have, excuse me, where we can have distance. Okay, but as there are no positive externalities, you need to be at a far away place where the customer is in between, has to choose now where I need to go. I need to go towards you or towards your competitor. You are splitting the market. Okay, by splitting the market you want to capture more. So you want to give more discounts, you want to attract more customers towards you. Okay, so as both are far, okay, usually like in between. If you are there, you cannot say I am far or I am very near to one of the house. There are many houses or many markets or many residential areas, so you might be very near to one and you could be very far from another. Okay, so by this thing we can say the store that is very near to me, okay, as a customer I tend to go over there if I want to buy less amount of product. Okay, very near. So if it is very far, I usually don't go over there unless I am very near to that place, like I am moving towards that particular place for some other work. Okay, then I can go to that particular store and get it. Or if you are having anything that this particular person is not selling, then with or without near or far, you need to go to that place and get it. Okay, so you might have seen some of the medicines. So all the medical shops will not be having all the kinds of medicines. They'll tell you go here, go there. That person might keep it. Okay, there might be a famous particular medical store. So he might be having most of it. So if anywhere in that particular region, if you are not getting, you will go to that particular store. So in many places, okay, you will find such stores, not only medical or medicines. It could be any product for that matter. So if it is a related one, and there are many people, and most of them are not keeping, there will be one person who will be keeping it. Okay, so he's ready to, as it is a slow moving item, he's ready to keep it in his shelf. Okay, because of two things. One, he's having good space to keep it, and other one, he's ready to bear the cost. Okay, because if it is not a fast moving item, then people will not give it for free, right? You need to pay and you need to get it. You need to store it. So it is, your money is locked over there. So unless somebody buys, you are not getting that particular amount out. So if you are able to store items like that, so if there is something, so there will be a reputation, okay, stating that if it is not available anywhere else, you go to this particular person, it will be 100% available. Okay, even if you go there, if he says it's not available, he'll tell you, okay, wait for some time, it's in my godown, or I'll make sure that you get it in this particular time, whether it could be 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, or 15 days, whatever. Okay, so this is what is split the market. Be bit far from each other, not very far from the market, but a good distance apart, where people have to think, the customers have to think where I have to go, to the near one, to the far one, so which one I need to go. You are basically splitting the market. But in the earlier one, so if you need something, you are directly go to that particular market over there. Okay, as I told you the Fort Road example, you directly go to Fort Road, then find, then ask somebody or go and check. So there will be some products that will be shown for a display that I am selling this, and this. So if you feel it is there, you go and ask him. If it is there, he'll provide you, or you can ask him where I can find this particular product. He will guide you. He'll say, okay, go to the next shop or go to the opposite shop, okay, or go to the shop at the end of this particular lane. You will get it over there. Okay, if that is if the product is not available there also, you might be having some idea, he'll send you to some other place. Okay, so many of us have experienced all these things. Okay, in the market where you see same kind of stores or same kind of retailers in one single place, or they are bit apart. Okay, so this is locating to split the market. Then comes customer response time and local presence. Okay, customer response time and local presence. What is this? Firms that target customers who value a short response time must locate close to them. In the sense, people who are not ready to go too far to get their products. Okay, for them, you need to have stores very near to the customer. Then customers are likely to come to a convenience store if they have to travel a long distance to get there. Convenience stores, as the name says, it is very near to the customers. There are many such stores, okay, at short distances and in many residential areas. If you see, so you are getting small stores. These are called as convenience stores where people tend to buy. If the convenience stores are only far, people will not go over there. So, and it may not be called as convenience store also. Okay, so you need to have convenience stores very near to the customers, or many number of convenience stores need to be there. So it is best for a convenience store chain to have many stores distributed in an area so that most people have a convenience store close to them. Okay, I just explained about this point. Then customers shop for larger amounts of goods at supermarkets and are willing to travel longer distances to get to one. Okay, when you are buying more number of quantity or more number of products, you may not think twice to go a bit far. But small thing and only one thing, you will not be ready to travel a longer distance. Okay, so you might see, so if you go to supermarket and hypermarket, even though the discounts are available, too much of discounts on MRP, but you will not tend to go there for only one product. So if you go there for one product, it is waste of your time as well as your energy. Okay, but if it is like a set of items that you want to buy, you don't mind going. Okay, so if you are staying, and even in supermarkets and hypermarkets, they are not available. Okay, in many numbers as of convenience stores. So if you see small, it could be medical stores, it could be grocery stores. You could see many of them. So if you just count in Belgaum, it could be some 200 or 300 or even more than those. But how many supermarkets are there, or how many hypermarkets are there in Belgaum? So you can say there is Big Bazaar, there is two D-marts, and there are now recently Reliance Marts have opened. Okay, other than this, how many are there? I can count them in fingers, right? But I cannot count the convenience stores in my fingers. Those many are there. So people are ready to travel, okay, and to have this particular supermarkets and hypermarkets, you need a lot of space. So you need to pay more. Even it is good for them if you buy in bulk. If you just buy one thing, it will not work. Okay, and there are so many strategies here also. So we teach them like most of these in our MBA, retail management, then wholesale management, and so many things are there. So each and everything that is located in a supermarket or a hypermarket, so it is kept scientifically. Okay, it is kept there scientifically. So if you see chocolates and all, where they are at the lower racks. You can observe. Like I don't know when it is possible for us to go to supermarkets now because of COVID. So if you go there, if you have not observed, you can observe. Okay, where the chocolates are kept. Okay, so there are two places where chocolates are kept. Chocolates are kept at the lower racks. So if they are kept, they will be kept keeping it at lower racks down, and in the place where billing counters are there. Two places you can see chocolates. Why at the lower counters? Because it is to the height of the small kids. So if they see them, they'll go and grab it. Okay, once they grab it, it is very hard for the parents to leave it. Okay, so out of 100 children grabbing a chocolate, there will be only 8 to 10 parents who will say no to it. So rest around 90 to 92 uh, parents, they'll get some of the chocolates, not the whole whatever they have taken, or they could change the chocolate, but there is a sale that is happening. Plus, at the place where counters are there, if you see, you can see Tic Tac, you can see chewing gums, you can see some assorted chocolates, you can see Ferrero Rocher over there. Okay, so these kinds of chocolates are kept there because as the customer is waiting in line for his turn for the billing, he will be looking around. Okay, so as and when he sees, okay, once he sees, twice he sees, thrice he sees, okay, then there will be a sense of urge that is there, like getting in him to buy that particular chocolate. Okay, so till the time you reach that particular counter, you would have taken some of the chocolates from them, or some of the chewing gums, or some of the items which are related to like hair clips, pins, the earbuds. So these kind of things will be kept over there. So you tend to pick some of those. Okay, there is one more tendency. If you go to, usually you will not go, but if you go to a supermarket to buy only one product, okay, so if you just go there, at the entrance they'll give you some trolley or a bag or a basket or something. So if you go there, it is very embarrassing usually. If you don't feel that it is different, but it is usually usually very embarrassing. There's a big container given to you or a trolley given to you. You are getting only one or two products. So because of that particular pressure, you tend to buy more. Okay, you tend to buy more products than you are intended to. That is one of the things. And the second one is, as most of the things are available, even you might not be recalling that you require it. Okay, you might have thought, yes, I want to buy this, but you have forgotten about it. But when you go there and when you see that particular product in a supermarket, you can, yes, you suddenly remember that, yeah, I wanted to buy it, and you go and buy it. But your intention was not to buy that. You had a different list to buy it, but still you buy something which is not there in the list also. So this is how these are the different tactics done by these store people, where they are maximizing their profits by selling more number of products than you were intended to buy. So if you go to a local shop, what do you say? So this is the list. ये बांध के रखो. Okay, मैं ये बांध के रखो, or I'll be waiting here. You give all these things. Okay, he will listen to each one by one. He will give it to you, or he will take the whole list and he'll see and he'll get the products. Okay, then it is very rare that you buy more than what you intended in these small stores, because there is no much to see. Everything is crowded. Everything is, only that person knows where he has kept, other than the small sachets and all that is dropping in front of you on the counter. Okay, like the masala powder and the haldi powder and all other stuff which is there in front of you. Other than that, you will not see much. Okay, because he will be keeping all the things assorted from his way of getting it. Okay, he will get. So if you go inside, if you search for one thing, you might have to like open 10, 20 boxes or 20 jars, then you will get it. But the person who is working over there, he knows, he directly goes there and picks it up. Okay, so that is the difference between a convenience store and a supermarket or hypermarket. How these people work. So this is how the customer responds to time and local presence. So very near, far. If you want to buy a smaller quantity or in a lesser quantity, you go to a store which is very near to you. So if you're buying too many products in a large quantity, even if it is far, you will go there because of discounts, because many things like many products are available, many companies, products of different companies are available, different brands are available, where a person nearby you or a convenience store person may not be able to keep all these particular different products to you. Okay, products which are there in the market, so most of them you can find in a supermarket. Right, so this is customer response time and local presence. Then logistics and facility costs. What is this? Logistic and facility costs incurred within a supply chain change as the number of facilities, their location and capacity allocation is changed. Okay, logistics and the facility is having a direct impact. Okay, if there are too many stores where you need to transport, your transportation cost will increase. Okay, in the initial stage, if it is less, also it will increase. But increasing the number of stores, okay, will initially decrease the transportation cost. Okay, for example, you are having 10 stores in Belgaum. You are coming from Hubli. From Hubli, if one truck comes, you can give it to all the 10 stores. Okay, you can manage giving all the 10 stores in one truck. Okay, but instead of 10, if you are having 100 stores, so you cannot facilitate getting all the products or all the things that all these 100 uh, stores require. So you need to send around 5 or 6 or 8 trucks, right? So here the logistic cost will increase. So up to a certain number of facilities, you can decrease. Then if you increase more than that particular number, your transportation cost again increases. Companies must consider inventory, transportation, and facility costs when designing their supply chain networks. So, what all things they need to check: inventory, how much can you keep, and how far is your godown. Then transportation, so whether it is easily available. So if it is throughout the country, I cannot send trucks. Okay, most of the times, rarely it is being done, but usually you book trains. If it is a large quantity, yes, trains are there. Then if you are shipping it to different countries, so the most affordable one is the using ships. but it takes a lot of time. Okay, uh, the time taken by a particular thing, okay, to get it through air, okay, the price is very high. One, but you can like around 4 to 5 times more you need in shipping. Okay, so I'll give you example again. When I was working as a assistant manager, sales and application. Okay, we used to, like I told you earlier in earlier classes, we are the manufacturer of hydraulic gear pumps, which is taken as the heart of hydraulic system. So only if you are having heart will it work. You need all the other parts, right? So all the other parts, there are some valves. Okay, valves which are there to control the flow of the oil or the fluid which you are using there. Okay, so some for valve we are not the manufacturer. So we had some we were dealers of so many different valves, and one of the valve was one of the company was a foreign company. It used to come from Spain. Okay, so it used to come from Spain. So usually those imported products are a bit costly. So if some customer comes, the lead time was around 14 weeks, 14 weeks. So 1 month has 4 weeks in general. So sometimes it goes to 5 weeks also. So 4 weeks. So just imagine how many months a person has to wait. If I say 14 weeks or 14 to 17 weeks we used to put. Okay, the lead time to get the product is 14 weeks to 17 weeks. Why? Because it's a product that is from other country. We are importing it, and how it comes? Usually it comes by ship. So they only take around 6 to 7 weeks to get it from that particular place to India. Then from India, where it is unloaded. So there are customs. To clear customs, we require another 3 or 4 days. From customs, it has to go to my head office. They will check. So they will not only order one. So there is a huge things that they will be ordering. Even the company will not send only one quantity. So there is a minimum order quantity also. So I need to buy more. Okay, or I need to buy more products. Okay, if not number of particular product, I need to buy different number of products. There used to be huge package, okay, that used to come, or like a container. You might have seen ships taking containers, big containers. So at least it should be a quarter of a container at least, where they could mix and match, putting all these things together. Okay, at least I even there the lead time increases till I get to that particular quantity. So just like that, who is ordering? Because it is a product that is imported, and you need to pay more also. So the customs are there. So based on the like the currency exchange and all we saw. So you need to pay more. So it is for the other countries where Indian currency value is lesser than the other currency. So by doing this, if the person wanted it very early, okay, so we used to give around 6 to 8 weeks. So exactly half or less than half, and the cost used to go very high based on the size and the weight of it. So we used to get it through air, okay, through aeroplanes. So from there, the price used to go around 60-70% higher. If the person is in very much need of it, okay, he will buy it. So both used to happen. So as the customer used to understand that okay, it takes a lot of time, he used to like order it prior only before the particular valve fails. Okay, in his facility, he would have kept one valve in a spare, and one more order would be given. Okay, if something happens suddenly, he could use that spare one, and this particular new order, whatever he gets, will put it in his inventory. Okay, so again, logistic and facility costs also you need to check. Okay, if the customer is okay, ready to wait for that particular time and or bear the extra cost, then no issues. But if there is some competitor enters and he says, okay, I can give you in 2 weeks because I'm manufacturing here only in India. So who will wait for 14 to 17 weeks? He'll go there. He will say, okay, even if it is costlier, he'll say, okay, chalta you give it to me because 2 weeks only are there, and I can manage somehow for 2 weeks, but I cannot stop my particular machine for months together. So 14 weeks to 17 weeks. Just imagine how many months. Around 6 to 7 months I need to wait. So it is not possible. Okay, most of the times. So that's how this particular logistics and facility cost works. Then transportation cost decreases the number of facilities increase. I told decrease because up to a certain level it decreases. Then if you increase it further a particular number, it will increase again. If the number of facilities increase to a point where inbound economies of scale are lost, then the transportation cost increases. That is what they have given here. Up to a certain level it decreases, then suddenly it will start increasing again. So framework for network design decisions. Okay, what is this framework for network design decisions? So network design decision. So how to design a network? There are four phases. You can see in between here. Phase one, supply chain strategy. Phase two, regional facility configuration. Phase three, desirable sites, and phase four, location choices. So these are the four phases, and at these particular phases, what are there? Okay, what you call factors? What factors are basically taken into consideration in each phase? So it is given to the right and left of this particular center box. That is phase one. If you see here, supply chain strategy. So to have a particular strategy, this is theoretically still. Okay, supply chain strategy. What I need to check? Global competition. If you are working globally, or if you are just in a particular region or in one particular country, you need to check that global competition. Then business strategy. What is your business strategy? It should support, the supply chain should support the business strategy. It should not happen that you are having a good capacity of production but you are not having raw material because of improper supply chain you are having. Okay, then internal constraints. Like what kind of internal constraints? Capital, in the sense amount. So you need, if you are having too much of amount, well and good. If not, you need to arrange for it. Okay, capital. Then growth strategy. Okay, what is your growth strategy? So how many times, like there will be targets given to sales and all. Okay, even in production it will be there. So depending upon the sales only, the sales team will give the order to the production team, stating that for this particular month I am in requirement of so many products. You just manufacture that for me. Okay, so growth strategy also depends on various departments. So how are you going to sustainably grow? Just not grow, sustainably grow. So this year I suddenly sell around 500 products. In the next year again I come back to 100 products. So earlier it was 100 or 120. Suddenly in 1 year I will go to 500. So I will increase it 5 times. If I am not sustaining the growth, okay, it is just a momentary thing for that particular year. Suddenly if you fall back to 100 or 80, that will not work. You need to sustain that particular growth. Okay, then only we say you are a fundamentally strong company. Okay, so where you can, you have already made that particular arrangements to make sure you are there when you reach that 500 sales figure. Okay, so you have to stay over there equal. Okay, if you come little less also fine, 480 is fine, or 450 is fine. Okay, but you cannot drop back to your initial sales. So there is no much of effect. Okay, you might say that, you might brag for 1 year that okay, I have increased for so many times, 5x I have increased, but next year suddenly you fall into 1x. So people start laughing at you. Okay, so you need to be very sustainable. Then existing network. So do you have an existing network? Is it working fine, or do you want to change it, or you want to entirely get a new network? Okay, these all things to be checked in phase one. Then in phase two, regional facility configuration. We just saw different kinds of facilities also in the previous class. So if you remember, phase two, many facilities. Some facilities who are there only catering to regional uh, population, some regional markets, some international markets, some only to store, some only to manufacture, some particular R&D work will be there. In some only some little bit of improvement in the product could be done. So these things we have seen. So in the second one, regional facility configuration. So production technologies. So if you see what kind of production technologies are available in the market or in your area of production. So do you have it, or you want to import any technology from other country where it is more advanced than what I'm using. Okay, then scale bar scope impact. So if what is a scale? Usually, a particular company when it is designed, it will be designed for scaling as well, scaling up. So, for example, I have started small today. I am producing only 20 units per day. As and when time passes, okay, I am popular in the market and my demand also increases. Instead of producing 20 products per day, if requirement is there, I could increase it to 30 products or 50 products or 80 products per day. Okay, so that is what is called as scalable model. So we can increase or decrease accordingly. So even decrease also is possible. So when something happens, yeah, but it is very, very rarely done because coming back happens when they keep it as a last resort. So you cannot maintain. Okay, for a longer period of time, you are not able to achieve sales where you are using full capacity of your or optimum capacity of your facility. So what you do, you slowly cut down your facility. You make it smaller and smaller. You like uh, remove some of the employees. You sell some of the machines. Okay, where you are cutting down the cost by uh, like making your facility smaller and smaller. Okay, so that is what is scope per scale. Then impact and support required. So is there proper support from many things? You need many support from many things like financial support, political support. Okay, then customer support, employee support. So many supports are there. So is it available to you? Then flexibility. So scalable model is fine, but flexibility as and when you require, you can increase, and as and when required, you decrease. So is the flexibility available? Okay, or you can just cater it to the local market, then suddenly some other region the demand is increased. So can I produce here and send it over there? So these are flexibility terms. Then competitive environment. So how many competitors are there? What products they are having? What is the quality compared to my product? What are the prices? Okay, of the product of my competitors or me? Okay, then what is the USP of my product or their product? USP is unique selling proposition. Anything that my product has and my competitor's product won't have. So there is something called as USP. You might have seen there are so many similar kind of products in the market. Each person is selling the similar kind of product, but in a different way. The marketing thing is different from it. Okay, so you could have seen many products in the market like that. So if a person is selling hair oil, okay, so all hair oils are there to apply for a hair only. One person says, I'm having this, that, and all. So if you use pure coconut oil, it is good for you. There is Ayurveda in the oil. Okay, so if you use my oil, you are getting thicker hairs, black hairs. Okay, your the health of the hairs get increased. Okay, no dandruff, it helps to remove dandruff. Okay, it is non-sticky. So these are some of the USPs, that is unique selling propositions of each and every kind of oil that is available in the market. Okay, this is just an example I'm telling you. All are oils which are applied to head or the hairs only, but they say it in a different way. So most of them might have most of the things over there, but they'll try to highlight one of the things. Okay, which is available with others also, or may not be available with others. Plus, it could be a unique feature in your product. Okay, like the mobile companies, if you see, recently, few years back till now, if you see, they are most focused on cameras. Okay, so there was one camera with 2 megapixel, there was VGA camera, there is like a 4 megapixel, 8 megapixel. So now, if you see, I am having phones with 120 megapixel, more than 100. So there was like a few months back, if you see 105 megapixel, now we are having 120 megapixel. Okay, of camera. So earlier it was only one camera, then it became dual camera, then three cameras, then four cameras. Okay, then slowly now it is stopping at four cameras. So like me and my friends, we were just talking like, okay, I think in next 10 years or 15 years, the back panel will be full of cameras of different kind. Okay, now if you see. you are having most of the facilities of a DSLR in your mobile phone. Okay, if you go to manual mode, you can set everything. Okay, the ISO can be set, the aperture can be set. Okay, so I don't know the quality. Both we need to check based on the price of the phone and the kind of lens used and the software used to stabilize, and so many things are there. So if you check on that, so further development it happens. DSLR could be obsolete. Okay, so again there is a story of Kodak. So if you remember, I don't know how many of you have seen your generation. Reel used to come earlier. Kodak reel used to come. So it was a monopoly market for them. So it was Kodak was one of the companies. Okay, which had not one of the companies. Kodak was the only company who had around 85 to 90% of market share. Okay, the real cameras. So you can ask your parents if it is there in your house, they will show you. You should open the back panel and insert a reel. It should be kept very properly. Light falls on it, it is destroyed. So it is packed always. It is kept as and when you want to insert it, they'll open it, they'll insert and close it again. Okay, so now digital cameras have come. You are taking 10 photos, 20 photos, or 30 photos. Earlier, only one photo. So everybody ready, everybody see here, smile. They used to say and click one photo. But now 100 photos. Go on taking photos, then you'll see. Okay, in this इसने आँख बंद किया है, इसने हाथ खोला है, ये मुंह कर रहा है. So you go on deleting. But earlier, once it is there on the particular reel, if you want it, if you develop it, हो गया. Okay, you could have taken, but it could be very costly. So those were the market leaders. So if you ask me, sir, where is Kodak? So they were like the age of digital technology came, and they did not employ it because they were having that particular notion. We are the market leaders in cameras. Nobody can beat us. So slowly this digital camera came, and many people started going to digital cameras because of the advantages like no buying reels. Okay, you can take as much as photos as your memory card and your battery supports, right? So there it used to be around 30 to 40 photos per reel, I guess. I don't remember much because I was very small. Okay, when even my parents used to have that particular camera. So I don't know where it has fallen or we have thrown it also. Okay, because nobody uses them now. So everywhere it is digital now. So if you want to take a photo now, you don't need a camera, you need your phone. You just open your phone and take a pick of it because the camera has evolved so much. Earlier DJI camera, it the clarity won't be that good, but now, as I told you, 120 megapixel and all. So that's a whole new area now. Okay, then we don't know what new things will be coming. The processor, the speed, the RAM. So earlier we used to never specify RAM. Then it became 2 GB of RAM, 1 GB RAM, 2 GB RAM, 4 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM. We are now getting 32 GB RAM only in phone. Okay, only in phone we are getting 32 GB of RAM. So again, space. So earlier we used to insert card. Okay, so I don't know how many of you remember it. So I don't think your younger brothers or someone in your relatives, the kid of this particular generation, may even not remember the small SD cards, okay, which used to go in the mobile phones because the internal memory is only, if you see, it starts from 32 GB now. 32 GB, 64 GB, 128 GB, 512 GB. Okay, so variants, different variants of phones. If you see, whether you want 128 GB with 6 GB RAM or 512 GB with 8 GB RAM or 16 GB RAM. Okay, so this is what is the technological advancement, and if you see, the prices have come down drastically. Earlier, come down in the sense over a period of time they'll reduce it because of the R&D cost they'll initially be having. For the same handset you would have paid double the price, but now if it is like 2 years or 3 years old, you would get it at half the price or lesser than half of the price. But we don't want to buy it because the technology has advanced and we need to pay more to get the recent technology. Okay, so iPhone 12 or Samsung Note 20. So what are these? So It started with Note 1, Note 2, Note 3. Now they have reached, Samsung has reached Note 20. Okay, iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they have reached 12. iPhone 12, and in that also different variants, 12 Pro, 12 Mini, 12 this, 12 that. Okay, similar in different variants in the same models. So these things are there. Then tariffs and tax incentives. So we spoke about the political perspective. So how the political situation should be very stable, so that many new changes should not happen. So tariffs and tax incentives based on different countries, there are different tax incentives. So in some countries, huge taxes needs to be paid. In some countries, no taxes. In some countries, very less tax. Okay, so all these things are then regional demand, size, growth, homogeneity, and local specification. So regional, in a particular region where you are. So how is the size of the market? Okay, what is the growth that I can get? What is homogeneity? Homogeneity and heterogeneity. No need to explain. I guess you know. Similar kind of products is homogeneous. Different kind of products heterogeneous. Very sorry. Then local specifications. What these people are looking for and what the other parts of the world are looking at. For example, if you see the current and voltage that we get in India, okay, 220, 230 volts, 50 hertz. In US and all, it is 110 volts. Okay, and the type of socket are also different because the pins are different. So based on the region, even all these things vary. So if you want to buy something from a different country, you need to check all the specifications, especially the electronic items. So if you want to charge, it may not be possible. So you need to get an adapter where you are basically reducing that 230 to 110 if you're getting something from US, or again you need to find whether it is a DC current or a AC current what we are using. Okay, so again, our transformer has to be fit. So similar thing happened with my one of my uncle, where he used to stay in US. He came back to India. So most of the things he left over there, but he brought a big TV which he had recently bought in US. Okay, so he was staying there. Then he came back to India. He had gone there for around 5 6 years. Okay, on uh, his job basically. Okay. Uh, so while coming, he brought that particular TV because it was very big. It was of a higher technology than India. Okay, so why to give it to someone? So he thought he will get it. So he brought to India, but the problem was 110 volts. You already know. So you had to get a small transformer, which could be like converting the voltage from 230 to 110 as per the requirement. Okay, so your normal phone chargers also. I don't know how many of you have seen. Okay, it works on 230, but what is the input is 230 volts. What is the output? Okay, again current, if you see what is the ampere input and what is the ampere output. So check on all these things. So fast charging you call. Okay, warp charging, fast charging, super fast charging. What is that? What is being the difference made? Okay, just check a normal charger and a fast charger. Okay, check out the specifications. You'll get to know. The amperes are increasing. Okay, so earlier it was 5 amps or 2 amps, 3 amps. So I have seen the adapters where it is 0.23 amps, 0.30 amps. But now if you see, I am getting like 15 amps, 20 amps, 34 amps, 36 amps, 40 amps. Okay, so this is where we are selling that we are giving more power and we are trying to charge at a lesser time. Okay, so many things the technology is being there. So many a times if you use adapter which is a fast charger to a old mobile, it may not work. It may heat up. Okay, because more power is there where it is not able to handle it. So it is sending that particular extra power as heat outside. So your phone heats up. So that's why we say use the same charger which is intended for that particular mobile only. Don't change them. Okay, so then phase three, desirable sites. So available infrastructure. You can say yes. I want to open my store in front of India Gate. So can I do it? No. So is it available? So wherever my permission is there to open a store or a manufacturing unit. So out of all the available infrastructure, I have to choose the best one. So which all are the available? I need to find out first. Then production methods. So the skills needed, a response time. So all this comes under production method. So this is phase 3, desirable sites. So based on my requirement, whether the sites are available, the amount of space that I require, like 2 acres, 3 acres, 8 acres, 10 acres, 500 acres. Okay, is it available for me? Okay, then phase 4, location choices. So in third one, we are just looking at different available infrastructure. But in fourth one, we are choosing the one. Okay, like logistics. So what all we look for there? Logistic costs, transportation cost, inventory, and coordination. Then on the other side, if you see factor costs, what kind of factors? Labor, material, and site specification. So is it okay if the land is in a hilly area, or if it is having a certain elevation, whether it is up or down, whatever? Is it okay, or you require a flat land only? Okay, so is there any kind of thing you are looking at the soil composition? So if you are using like big machines where too much of vibration is there, so if the land underneath is not hard or if it is not able to withstand it, it will fall. Okay, your machine might have issues running there. Okay, your whole uh, factory might start vibrating. Okay, like the example of that cement, I think Ultratech, where a particular person shows that this is your land, and as a train passes, everything starts shaking. Okay, but they are telling that okay, use my cement; it is very strong. It will not allow you to have that vibrations and all. So such things you need to take into consideration. Okay, so those are in phase 4. So let's look at them into deeper level. So define a supply chain strategy. That is phase 1. So what is there in phase 1? The objective of the first phase of network design is to define the firm's broad supply chain design. So what actually are you looking at? So broadly, we need to first put that into as an objective. Then this includes determining the stages in the supply chain. So what all stages are there? So whether I'm directly getting it from the supplier or the manufacturer, or is there any person in between from where it is coming? So similarly, as and when it reaches my facility, I'll take the necessary processes, then I'll make a finished product. So am I directly selling it to the customer, or there is a retailer or distributor in between? So you just saw all those designs, okay, in this chapter only earlier. So which one do I want to pick? So that different stages you need to find out. Okay, then, and whether each supply chain function will be performed in-house or outsourced. Okay, we saw that directly manufacturer is sending, okay, with his supply chain only, or there is someone third party who is there. Okay, carriers, whether he's using the carriers, that is what is called as outsourced here. So am I able to have the whole chain in-house, or it has to be outsourced? Then phase 1 starts with a clear definition of the firm's competitive strategy as a set of customer needs that the supply chain aims to satisfy. In the sense, two things we have seen, that is responsiveness and cost. So if you want to have a lot of responsiveness, a different kind of strategy needs to be there. So you need to check with the competitor strategy as well. Okay, what he is doing, whether he is more responsive or he is looking more into cost. Okay, depending upon the type of product. Then, based on the competitive strategy of the firm, its resulting supply chain strategy and analysis of the competition and any economies of scale or scope and any constraints. Okay, constraints in the sense any things that are opposing or that are giving me problems in setting up my supply chain. So these are called as constraints. Then manager must determine the supply chain design for the firm. So taking all these into considerations. So can I achieve economies of scale here? So can I reduce the cost of the production or the cost of the product? If the production cost goes down, then the price of the product also goes down. Okay. So that's how you need to or these all things you need to take care in phase 1. Then going to phase 2, define the regional facility configuration. So what is regional facility configuration? So we are looking at the objective of the second phase of network design is to identify regions where facilities will be located. Okay, so we are identifying the regions where I could have my facility, their potential roles. So So we saw like whether it is only catering the regional market or whether we are looking into the international market also, or it is only the production facility or it is only the storing facility. Can we do a R&D over there? Can development be done? So all different things of facilities are there. So which one are you looking at? Okay, then an analysis of phase two starts with the forecast of the demand by the country. So if I am selling my product with like in that particular country, so what will be the demand? So I need to forecast the demand. Then I need to make sure that how many machines should be there, what should be the size of the land, so where it should be located. So these things come into picture. So the forecast must include a measure of the size of the demand as well as the determination of whether the customer requirements are homogeneous or variable across different countries. So whether the same kind of products in multiple countries are being looked at, or there is some variation that I need to do. Like electronics, if I want to like produce in India and sell it to US, I cannot have it like I gave the example 230 volts and 110 volts. So I need to have the power supply for 110 volts and not 230 volts. It may not work there. Okay, to take a 231 and plug it here, like plug in US because of the low voltage, it will not work. But in India, if you get that 110 and you put it in a normal socket and switch it on, it will burn off because double the amount what is required is being fed into it. So if there is no limiting or no cutoff, so it will surely burn off. The circuit may break or the circuit might basically fuse, okay, or some components of the like that particular circuit may burn off. So these things may happen. Okay, the next step is for managers to identify whether economies of scale or scope can play a significant role in reducing costs. Okay, given available production technologies. So again, employing certain kind of technologies may increase or decrease the cost of the particular product. Okay, depending upon the availability. If a particular you are having two technologies where one the cost is less and the other is more, but the one where it is less, it needs a special kind of particular raw material or a product where to use it we need that, but it is not available. So by any chance if you get it, well and good. Otherwise, by hook or crook, you need to go with a technology where it costs me more only. Okay, like for example, in India we are trying to get the nuclear power plants, but very rarely in India we get the uh, uranium, okay, or the plutonium, which is the raw material to make the uranium. It is not available in that quantity in India. Okay, so if I want, I need to get it from somewhere. So if I am able to get it, then only I can have those particular power plants, right, in India. Otherwise, it is not possible. So we say, okay, it is the cheapest form of production of energy. So when compared to the thermal power plants or the wind power plants, okay, or the tidal, whichever, other than the nuclear. So we say nuclear is the one where we can produce electricity at a very cheap or very lower cost. But is the raw material or the environment adequate for it to work? Okay, so you need to check those as well. Then managers must identify demand risk, exchange rate risk, and political risk associated with different regional markets. I don't want to explain much because just now we have seen in the previous class and this class about all these things like exchange rate risk, then political risk, then different regional marketing risks and all. Then managers must identify competitors in each region and make a case for whether a facility needs to be located close or far from competitor's facility. So again, just now we saw that whether you want to be very near or very far from your competitor. So I'll not explain much about that as well. Then going to phase three, to select a set of desirable potential sites. So what are these desirable potential sites? The objective of phase three is to select a set of desired potential sites within each region. Okay, within each region where facilities are to be located. So earlier in the first phase, it was like get all the things that you need in a particular facility. Then find different regions in the second phase. Okay. Then in the third phase, In each region, find different places. Okay, different sites in each region. Okay, like for example, if I want to start a particular facility in Belgaum, so I just cannot go in one place and start. I need to check a particular place. Like for example, I want to start a school in Belgaum. Okay, so I just cannot start anywhere. I need to first find how big the area I want. So is it available? So how many people are there? Like residential area, how big is it? Okay, how many children are there? Where they are going? So if I situate over there, so will they come to me? Okay, then where all I can have this? How far from the city? How near to the city? What are the costs? Okay, so different sites I'll check first. So even for taking land, whether it is 30, 40 site or bigger or small, whatever. So you go to the location, you go to multiple places, you check for the type of soil, you check for the per square feet cost, who stays nearby, what facilities are available, okay, whether the hospitals are nearby, schools are nearby, petrol bunks are nearby, or other grocery stores are nearby. So is this particular place okay good for me? If all these things are there, the price will be higher per square feet. But if it is a remote place where it is being developed now, the prices will be very less. Okay, then hard infrastructure requires. So here, if you see, there is something called as hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. So what are hard infrastructures? Hard infrastructure requirements include the availability of suppliers, transportation services, communication, utilities, and warehouse infrastructure. This we are calling it as hard infrastructure requirements. Then soft infrastructure requirements include the availability of skilled workforce, workforce turnover, and the community receptivity to the business and industry. So workforce turnover in the sense how many people are joining in a particular year, how many people are leaving the organization. So this is a turnover for workforce. Okay, so what is turnover in general? It is how much you buy and how much you sell. Okay, that is what is the total turnover. Similarly, how many people are joining and how many people are leaving your company. So that is workforce turnover. Then skilled workforce. I told you like skilled, semi-skilled, and non-skilled labors are required in each and every factory. Then coming to uh, the community receptivity means, so are the people okay with you being over there? So there might be some noise that might be coming. There could be some too much of water that you are using, or there could be some pollution that you are doing, like whether it is you are burning something and the fumes and everything are coming out. So how the people of the particular place are taking it? So are they okay with you being over there, or they want you to move from that particular place? Then what kind of business and industries are available nearby? Okay, all these things are very much important. So in phase 3, what it is, in particular region, we are looking for different sites to have our facility. Then phase 4, so out of those different sites, to locate the exact one where I want to have my facility. So the objective of phase 4 is to select a precise location and capacity allocation for each facility. The network is designed to maximize total profits, taking into account the expected margin and demand in each market. Okay, so here again check phase 1, 2, 3. Again, if I have like finalized a particular location, again with respect to 1, 2, and 3, check okay about the facilities, about the uh, profits, how far is it from the market, okay, what are the taxes of the land, is there any tariff, okay. So check everything and finalize the final location. So this is the fourth phase, location choices. So I think we'll stop till the fourth one. Again, there are models. Okay, models for facility location. We'll start this particular model in the next class. So that is a small part that is left in module 3. So we are about to complete module 3. Okay, so in the next class we'll complete module 3 and we'll check if you are having any doubts also. Then after that we'll move to module number 4. Okay, hopefully a small part I'll cover in the next class. Then in the subsequent classes we'll get into deep into module 4. Okay, so we'll stop for today. Okay, students, bye. Take care.